What the only witness to a murder was a bird, not a detective, not a neighbor peeking through blinds, not a security camera, a parrot, a talking African gray named Bud, who decided one day to open his beak and repeat, word for word, the last sound a man ever heard before he died. Get your ass over here. And then, shots. This is the story of Marty, his parrot, and the woman who thought she'd gotten away with the perfect crime. Glenna was 36 when her life started quietly unraveling. She lived in a modest home in Michigan with her husband, Marty, a man the world had already dealt a brutal hand. A car accident had paralyzed the entire left side of his body. He relied on disability checks. And Glenna? The state paid her to be his caretaker. It wasn't a glamorous life, but for a while it was theirs. Here's the thing about Glenna, though. She had a secret the size of a sinkhole. She loved to gamble. Obsessively. We're talking $100 a day on lottery tickets, 3 or 4 times a week. Casino visits that stretched into the night. And Marty, limited by his disability, had no idea how deep the hole had gotten. By 2010, she had burned through roughly $75,000 in a single year. Most of their combined income at casinos alone. The taxes weren't being paid. The mortgage wasn't being paid. The car payments? Gone. She was funneling everything into slot machines while Marty sat at home turning off lights to save on electricity bills. Fast forward to 2015. 5 years of bleeding money. 5 years of lies. And the walls were finally closing in. They owed the IRS. A collections agency was circling their car, and the bank, done waiting, moved to foreclose on the house. $48,000 in unpaid mortgage. Nearly a year behind. Glenna got the papers. And she did what she always did. Ignored them. But banks have a legal obligation to publish foreclosure notices in local newspapers. And that notice? Marty's mother saw it. She recognized her son's address. She made a call. And suddenly Marty, who believed everything was fine, was staring at proof that his entire financial world had been silently destroyed by the woman he trusted most. He confronted her. She lied. It's a misunderstanding. I'll call the bank. She didn't call the bank. There was nothing to say to the bank. And this is where Glenna's story stops being a cautionary tale about gambling and becomes something far darker. She knew the truth was coming out. The house would be auctioned. They'd be homeless. Marty would finally see every lie she'd told, every dollar she'd stolen from their future. And Glenna, faced with the complete implosion of the life she constructed, decided there was only one exit. She wrote 3 letters, one to her adult children, one to her mother, one to her ex-husband, all of them goodbye notes, all of them saying she was sorry. She got a gun. She walked into the bedroom where Marty was resting. They argued, shouted, and then 5 shots. Marty never had a chance. Then Glenna walked to the living room and turned the gun on herself. She should have died. Somehow, she didn't. Disoriented, wounded, she hid the gun under the couch, still not sure why. Then dragged herself back to the bedroom and lay down beside her husband's body. 2 days passed. It was a neighbor who finally raised the alarm. A close friend who hadn't heard from them. She walked in and found them both. Police arrived expecting a double homicide. What they got was something stranger. Glenna, assumed dead, suddenly opened her eyes. She was rushed to hospital. When detectives questioned her, she said one thing and one thing only. I don't remember anything. Convenient, unverifiable, and with no hard evidence pointing directly at Glenna, investigators were stuck. No case, no arrest, a murdered man, and a wife with amnesia. It looked, for a devastating moment, like she was going to walk away clean. But there was one witness the investigators didn't think to interview. Bud, Marty's African gray parrot, had been in that house during the entire incident. He'd heard everything. And African grays don't just mimic sounds. They're among the most cognitively sophisticated birds on the planet. They process. They repeat. They remember. After Marty's death, Bud went to live with Marty's ex-wife. And weeks later, something chilling happened. Bud started performing. Not randomly. Contextually. He began mimicking Glenna's voice, sharp and urgent. Get your ass over here. Then gunshot sounds. then what appeared to be Marty's terrified responses. The ex-wife, listening, realized she was watching a reenactment of the last moment of Marty's life, performed by a bird in a cage. Here's the cruel irony. A parrot's testimony is not admissible in court. Bud could not be sworn in. He could not be cross-examined. Whatever he knew or seemed to know was legally worthless. A year went by. No arrest. Marty's family watched the case gather dust, and frustration curdled into something desperate. So they did something bold. They released the audio recording of Bud to local news, and the internet lost its mind. The story of the talking parrot who witnessed a murder spread globally within days. Every major outlet picked it up. People were outraged, heartbroken, fascinated. A small Michigan murder case suddenly had the attention of millions. Police, who had quietly let this case fade, now felt the full heat of public scrutiny. Within 3 weeks of the story going viral, they had enough to move. Glenna was arrested. At trial, the parrot's recording was not admitted as formal evidence. But what the story did was restart an investigation that had gone cold. It put pressure on police. It brought forward new information. And in the end, the evidence they gathered was enough. Glenna was found guilty of first-degree murder. She was sentenced to life in prison. No parole. Marty, who had done nothing wrong except trust the wrong person, finally got some version of justice, delivered in the most improbable way imaginable. A 4-pound bird with a beak and a memory had done what the legal system had failed to do. It refused to let the truth stay buried. Bud is still alive. There's something haunting about this case that I can't shake. Not the crime itself, as horrifying as it is, but the idea that a creature with no understanding of justice, no stake in the outcome, no agenda, just told the truth because that's all it knew how to do. Sometimes the most honest thing in the room has feathers. If this case got to you the way it got to me, hit that subscribe button. Every week on Last Witness, we go deep into the cases that the world almost forgot. And leave a comment. Do you think Bud's testimony should have been admissible? I genuinely want to know where you land on that.